Welcome back to the Slow Almanac. I'm Ali. Tonight we wander together slowly to a place where nothing is in a hurry, and neither are we. If you enjoy these quiet journeys, take a moment to subscribe before we begin. That way, the next slow story will find you on Sunday night. Let your weight settle. Let whatever you were carrying today set itself down at the edge of the room. There is nothing here that needs your attention. There is no arrival time. There is no hurry of any kind. Tonight the place comes to you, a hillside, terraced and green, where the same low hedgerows of tea plants have been tended for longer than anyone now living can remember. You don't have to do anything to get there. The place is already around you. Breathe in slowly, hold it a moment, let it go. The air here smells of damp earth and cut green and something faintly sweet underneath, the way a garden smells after a slow rain has passed through and the sun has just begun to return. Your feet are on the ground. Your back is supported. The hillside holds everything else. The garden is on a south-facing slope. The hill rises behind you and falls away in front, dropping in a long, gradual descent toward a valley floor you can just make out as a pale green blur through the morning mist. The terraces are cut into the slope like shallow steps, each one wide enough to walk along without hurrying, each one holding a single row of tea plants, trimmed low and even, shaped over many years into a continuous hedge that runs the full width of the terrace. The hedgerows are waist high. They are dark green, a deep, saturated green, the kind that seems to hold light rather than reflect it. The leaves are small and oval, with a slight gloss on the upper surface and a finer, paler texture underneath. If you reach out and run a finger along the nearest row, the leaves give slightly, the way a dense cushion gives, then hold. The plant underneath is old. Its main stems are as thick as your thumb, and they branch again and again, each branch ending in a cluster of new growth. The youngest leaves, at the very tips, a brighter, lighter green than everything below them. The rows run across the slope in parallel lines, following the contour of the hill. Between each row there is a narrow path of bare earth, dark and soft, slightly raised at the edges where the soil has been turned and mounded over many seasons. The paths are just wide enough for one person to walk, or to kneel, or to sit for a moment and look out over the valley. You are sitting at the edge of one of those paths now. The soil beneath you is cool and slightly damp. Behind you, the hedgerow makes a low wall of green. In front of you, the next terrace drops away, and beyond it the next, and beyond that the next, until the rows become too small and too far to count. The whole hillside is covered in them. It has been covered in them for a very long time. The sky above the garden is pale this morning, not quite overcast, not quite clear. A thin layer of cloud diffuses the light so that it arrives from everywhere at once, soft and even, without a single hard shadow anywhere on the slope. The tea plants seem to prefer it this way. They are not plants that want full, direct sun at all hours. They want the light filtered, the way light comes through a paper screen or through the canopy of a tall tree. The hillside itself and the mist that collects in the valley below and the thin cloud above, all of it conspires to give the plants exactly what they want. There is a low wooden post at the corner of the terrace, weathered gray, with a small hook on it. A length of shade cloth hangs from the hook, folded and tied, waiting. In certain weeks of the year, the cloth is unrolled and stretched across the rows on a frame of thin poles, covering the plants in a tent of deep shade. Not yet, but the post and the hook are there, as they have been every year, ready when the time comes. At the far end of the terrace, where the path meets a low stone retaining wall, there is a pile of fallen leaves, not tea leaves, but the leaves of the taller trees that line the upper edge of the garden, deciduous trees planted there on purpose, for the shade they give in summer and the leaves they drop in autumn. The pile has been there since the last autumn. It has been slowly breaking down all winter, and now it is dark and crumbly at the bottom, still leafy at the top, and it smells of the same deep earth the whole garden smells of. Someone will work that leaf matter into the soil between the rows before the season fully turns. Not today, perhaps next week. There is no hurry. The soil is already rich from all the years of the same patient work, and the plants are already fed, and the season will arrive in its own time. The garden is quiet. The wind moves through the hedgerows at intervals, a slow breath across the slope, and the leaves shiver for a moment and then go still. Far below, somewhere in the valley, there is the sound of water moving. A stream, probably, too distant to hear clearly, just a low, soft presence under everything else. The mist is beginning to thin at the edges. The day is coming in, unhurried. Let me say it again, in a slightly different way. You are on a terraced hillside. The slope faces south, so it catches the morning light early and holds it long into the afternoon. The terraces are cut into the hill in long, even steps, and each step holds a row of tea plants, trimmed low and even into a continuous hedge. The hedgerows run across the slope as far as you can see, row after row, following the curve of the land. The plants are old. Some of them have been in this soil for decades. Their roots go deep, deeper than you might expect from something that stands only waist high. The roots have followed the cracks in the subsoil, the places where moisture collects and minerals accumulate, and they have made themselves at home there. The plant you can see above the soil is only a small part of what is here. The soil itself is dark and layered. If you pressed your fingers into it beside the nearest hedgerow, you would feel the topmost layer, which is loose and fine and slightly spongy, the accumulated work of many years of composted leaves and turned earth. Below that, the soil becomes denser, cooler, holding moisture the way a sponge holds water. Below that, you would reach the subsoil, the mineral layer, the slow rock that the roots have been drinking from for a very long time. The air is cool and still and smells of green things and red earth. The light is soft and even. The cloud above the garden diffuses everything. There are no hard edges anywhere on this hillside. The light doesn't cut. The shadows don't fall sharply. The wind, when it comes, is a gentle thing. The whole place has the quality of something that has been arranged over a long time to be exactly this way. Not arranged all at once, but gradually, season by season, decision by small decision, until the hillside became what it is now. You can hear your own breathing, slow, even, in the rhythm of the garden. Nothing is being asked of you here. The plants don't need anything from you today. The soil is doing its quiet work without you. The mist is lifting on its own. You can simply be on this hillside, in the cool morning air, with the rows of dark green hedgerows running away from you down the slope, and the pale sky above, and the smell of wet earth and green leaves all around. This is a place that has been tended for a long time. You can feel it in the evenness of the rows, in the depth of the soil, in the way the plants sit in the ground with a kind of settled confidence, as though they know they are not going anywhere. They are not going anywhere. They have been here, and they will keep being here, season after season, slowly becoming more of what they already are. The story of how this garden came to be what it is, and how the leaves growing on these plants came to hold what they hold, is a slow story. It is the kind of story that happens mostly below the threshold of what you can see on any given day. But it is happening now, around you, in the soil, and in the stems, and in the newest leaves at the tips of the hedgerows. It begins with pruning. Every year, after the main harvest season has passed, someone walks these paths with a pair of long-handled shears and takes the top of each hedgerow back by several centimeters, cutting away the growth of the season, leaving a flat, even surface across the top of the row. The cut is clean and level. It looks almost severe afterward. The hedgerow that was rounded and full is now flat and close-cropped, like something that has been made smaller. But the pruning is not a reduction. It is a redirection. When the growing tips are removed, the plant does not stop growing. It sends its energy sideways and downward into the interior of the hedgerow, thickening the branches, building structure, deepening the root system. The plant becomes denser. It becomes more of itself rather than taller. Over many years of this, many seasons of cutting back, many seasons of the plant responding by building inward, the hedgerow accumulates a kind of stored capacity. The root system grows extensive. The interior branching becomes complex, a dense lattice of wood that holds the plant's resources through the winter and releases them slowly into the new growth in spring. The new leaves that emerge in spring from a plant that has been pruned for many years in this way are drawing on a deeper reserve than the leaves of a younger, less tended plant. That reserve shows up in the leaf. The compounds that make the flavor of a tea leaf, the amino acids, the aromatic oils, the particular balance of bitterness and sweetness, and that quality sometimes described as depth. These compounds are not simply present or absent. They accumulate. They concentrate. They are built up over time in a plant that has been given the conditions to build them slowly, without interruption, without stress, without being pushed toward fast growth. The shade cloth that hangs from the post at the corner of the terrace is part of the same slow logic. In the weeks before the main spring harvest, when the new leaves are just beginning to unfurl at the tips of the hedgerows, the cloth is unrolled and stretched over the rows. It reduces the light reaching the leaves to a fraction of what they would receive in full sun. The plants respond to the reduction in light by producing more of a particular amino acid, a compound that the plant makes as part of its effort to capture what little light there is, and that happens to be the same compound that gives the finest tea leaves their characteristic sweetness and that quality of depth that is difficult to describe but easy to recognize. The shading lasts for a few weeks. Not long, long enough. The timing is learned, and it is passed on, and it is adjusted each year depending on the weather and the condition of the plants and the judgment of the person walking the rows. There is no instrument that tells you exactly when to unroll the cloth and when to take it down. There is only the accumulated knowledge of many seasons of paying attention. The leaf matter at the end of the terrace is part of the story too. The tall trees along the upper edge of the garden were planted there by someone many years ago for reasons that were understood then and have continued to make sense ever since. They give shade to the upper rows in the hottest part of summer, when the afternoon sun would otherwise be too direct. And in autumn, they drop their leaves. The fallen leaves are gathered, not all of them, not immediately, But over the course of the autumn and into the early winter, and piled at the ends of the rows, or spread loosely between them, through the winter, the leaves break down. The fungi and bacteria in the soil work on them slowly in the cold, converting the dry leaf matter into something the soil can use. By spring, the topmost layer of soil between the hedgerows has been enriched by what the trees gave back. This is not a fast process. It does not produce a visible result in a single season, but over many seasons, the soil between these rows has become something different from what it was when the garden was first planted. It has become deeper, more complex, richer in the slow-release nutrients that the tea plants draw on over the course of a long growing season. The plants in this soil are eating a diet that has been building for decades. The roots of the oldest plants in this garden reach down through all of that accumulated richness and into the mineral subsoil below. They are drawing from two sources at once: the organic layer above, which is soft and recent and full of the work of many autumns, and the mineral layer below, which is ancient and slow and gives up its contents reluctantly, in trace amounts, over a very long time. The leaf that forms at the tip of the hedgerow is the sum of all of it. A leaf that has formed slowly on a plant that has been pruned for many years, in soil that has been tended for many seasons, under a sky that has been managed for shade and diffuse light. That leaf is different from a leaf that has been pushed to grow quickly, in thin soil, in full sun. Not different in any way you could see necessarily. The leaves look much the same, but what they hold is different. When a leaf like that is prepared and steeped, when the hot water passes through it and draws out what the plant has spent years accumulating, what comes out is something that takes time to understand. Not complicated, not sharp, something that opens slowly, that has more in it the longer you sit with it, that seems to become more itself as it cools slightly in the cup. The people who tend this garden have been doing this work for a long time, not the same people, the same work passed from one pair of hands to the next, season after season, with small adjustments and accumulated knowledge, and the particular attention that comes from caring about a place over time. The hedgerows they maintain were shaped by the people who came before them. The hedgerows that exist now will shape the work of the people who come after. The garden does not belong to any single season. It is the product of many seasons, laid one on top of another, the way the soil layers lie one on top of another, each one adding something, none of them erasing what came before. Come back to where you are sitting. The terrace path is cool and soft beneath you. The hedgerow behind you is a low wall of dark green. The rows run away down the slope in front of you, even and quiet, holding the morning light in that particular way, not glittering, not bright, but present. The mist in the valley has thinned to almost nothing. The pale sky is still even, still diffuse, still giving the garden the soft light it prefers. The wind moves through the rows again, slowly. The leaves shiver and settle. There is nothing you need to do. The soil is doing its work. The roots are reaching. The new growth at the tips of the hedgerows is accumulating, slowly, what it will hold. The shade cloth waits on its hook for the right week. The leaf pile at the end of the terrace is becoming, quietly, what the soil will need. Everything here is in the middle of a long process. Everything here has been in the middle of a long process for longer than you have been alive. And it will keep going, season after season, long after this particular morning has passed. You can let your breath go slow. You can let the hillside hold you. The garden is not going anywhere. The rose will be here in the morning, and in the spring, and in the autumn after that, and the season after that. The oldest plants in the soil have been here for decades, and will be here for decades more. There is no urgency in any direction. If you'd like more of these, you can follow along quietly. The button is just below this video. Sleep well. The wind passes through the hedgerows one more time. The mist is gone from the valley. The light is even and soft. The rows run down the slope in their long, patient lines. The garden keeps going.